Now to an I-Team report tonight about a police department forced to investigate one of its own. So let me tell you the backstory. Started with allegations of retaliation, but the case then revealed problems of sexual propositions, graphic conversations, and unwanted advances as well. We've got Andrea Lucia here with us tonight. The story we're waiting on, obviously. What more did you discover in all of this? Because that's a boatload what we read already.
Yeah, absolutely. Surveys show that most women in law enforcement have experienced repeated sexual harassment on the job, and not just from the public they encounter. More commonly, they say it's coming from their own colleagues. We wanted to examine that through this case in Rowlett, where you can hear from many of the officers themselves in recordings we got of their interviews with Internal Affairs. We want to warn you, though, at times what you're about to hear is graphic. It started with a complaint from a male police officer. In January of 2025, the officer claimed he was being mistreated, retaliated against by his supervisor, Sergeant Ryan Doherty, because of the officer's relationship with a colleague. But when detectives spoke to other officers on the shift, it was Doherty's alleged behavior toward the women that caught their attention.
Several have brought up instances where Doherty has approached females for sexual favors. Your name got brought up. Has that ever occurred to you?
Yes.
Any other females that you know that might have gone through that?
Yeah.
Through nearly 24 interviews, Rowlett detectives pieced together stories of a man who had apparently pursued women at work for years, initiating relationships with direct reports, soliciting them for threesomes, and treating them differently as a whole. But one name kept coming up over and over.
Bailey.
Bailey
Always complained about how he harassed her.
I mean, her terms was he wants to me, and I'm not interested.
Several officers said Officer Victoria Bailey told them that Doherty had repeatedly asked her out, and that turning him down had led to problems on the job.
He would talk to her certain ways at the time. She felt that she was being picked on at work for not going out with him, like outside of work.
The revelations came months too late to ask Bailey herself. In October 2024, she'd taken her own life. A shocking act family members say was spurred not by work issues, but by other personal troubles. When detectives confronted Doherty with the harassment allegations, he denied everything.
It's reported by some female officers in the department that you've either pursued them by asking them out, asking to sleep with you, or approached them with a threesome for your wife. Who in the department have you approached for such activity?
No, so I don't know who would say that.
Nobody at all. It's also reported earlier in the year, in 2024, that you asked Bailey to have sex with you, and she said no. Did this happen?
First of all,
Okay. It's also reported that you harassed her after the fact, stopped having her help you with traffic training, and started treating her differently on the shift.
Bailey?
Mm-hmm.
No.
So you never asked her out, never asked her to sleep with her, or have a threesome with your wife?
No.
That may have been the end of it, except for a text shared by one of the officers, in which Bailey claimed she had proof of Doherty's behavior. Rowlett detectives turned to the Plano Police Department, which had investigated Bailey's death and obtained her phone records. The text history confirmed Doherty had repeatedly asked her out, and that the pair had met up once. For months after that night, he'd sent messages ranging from professional to personal to pornographic. Detectives questioned Doherty again.
Did you ever engage in any type of sexual intercourse with Officer Bailey?
Yes.
Okay, so why did you not tell us that on the first interview?
Well, because when I was asked in the first interview, did you guys hang out? Because the way the questions were asked in the first interview, there was like 2 questions in some of those, right? Was it this or was it that? Right, so that's why, to the best of my knowledge and what I recall, that's why the way I answered in the first interview. Because I took the questions as like literal questions. Like, did you ask her to sleep with you? Like, saying like, did I say, will you sleep with me? And that's why I said no.
That'd be the equivalent of somebody stealing from Tom Thumb, and you getting a call out there and asking, hey, did you steal ribeye steaks? And they say no, and next thing you know, he's got 30 T-bone steaks. What we're asking about is the relationship, not the specific words that we use.
Rowlett PD cleared Doherty of the original retaliation claim made by the male officer. but said he'd violated policies that required truthfulness and banned relationships between supervisors and subordinates. While the investigation recommended he be fired, the department allowed him to resign last June. Sexual harassment remains one of the most common problems in the workplace, mostly for women. A 2024 Women in the Workplace study found around 40% of women in corporate America said it happened to them. But the numbers are much higher in law enforcement. A recent survey by Police One magazine showed 77% of female officers said they experienced it.
In too many places, the burden is still on an individual woman to tough it out.
Tanya Meisenholder is the director of police research at the NYU School of Law and a former police officer.
There's a stigma attached to reporting in law enforcement agencies. In
a male-dominated workplace, Meisenholder says female officers often choose to live with the harassment out of self-preservation.
There are ways to, quote unquote, informally punish people for things that might happen in the workplace. Maybe that's changing their shift. Maybe that's not letting them have a day off.
To me, it's almost like some people are just accepting that that's a part of the job.
Jennifer Atherton, the president of the Dallas Police Women's Association, has her own stories to tell.
One of the times that happened to me when I was young.
One of the times it happened to you?
Of course. No, yeah. Trust me, it's multiple times, yes. But one of the times, it was impossible to avoid that supervisor. And that's who I had to go to for any issue, like had to take off work. I got to the point I had my male partner. I tell him, you got to come with me. Don't let him close the door. Here's the thing though, everybody loved this guy. I even liked him, except for that part. If I had made a complaint on him, I would have been run out of town. And it was all true.
For Atherton, the problem isn't just if an officer should file a complaint, but when. She recalled one case in which a major had asked a female officer why she didn't come forward sooner.
And I said, why did you ask that? Because I want you to tell me the answer, like, where's the sweet spot? And I was shocked by what he said. I don't know why. I just wasn't expecting it. He said, well, if she would have said something sooner, we could have saved his job.
His job?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where the concern is.
Atherton says when her association surveyed female Dallas police officers, nearly everyone that replied had experienced sexual harassment or discrimination. In one small effort to cut down on that, her organization has actually posted signs in substations like this one, educating officers on when it is okay to ask out a colleague and when you definitely should not. It has questions like, are you their mentor? In their chain of command, have they already said no? It may seem obvious, but I was surprised to learn officers often don't get this same kind of HR training on this that is so common in the corporate workplace.
Back to the Rowlett case real quick. Did the former Sergeant Doherty or the police chief, for that matter, have anything to say?
Yeah, Police Chief Mike Denning declined our request for an interview, and former Sergeant Doherty did not respond to our attempts to contact him. Our open records request showed both sides signed a contract that included a confidentiality agreement and non-disparagement clause.
Andrea Lucia, thanks very much for being here.
Dreamers, as they're called, are among the largest U.S. group of immigrants shielded from deportation, and it's all thanks to an Obama-era policy. The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, allows people who were brought into this country without documentation as children to live and to work legally. And now many are on edge as they await a potentially life-changing ruling from a federal judge here in Texas.
It looks like a conference room.
For Juan Carlos Cerda, a DACA recipient from Fort Worth, life lately has been filled with a lot of anxiety as he waits to see if a federal judge removes Texas work authorizations currently allowed under DACA.
I try not to think about it every single day because it does take a toll on my mental health.
Cerda is the Texas director of the American Business Immigration Coalition. It's a group that lobbies lawmakers for immigration reform. He's been front and center in this debate both personally and professionally. His current authorization, which he's already applied for renewal, is set to expire later this month.
It would be a big loss for me, my wife, and 89,000 other DACA recipients who are teachers, and some who are doctors, engineers.
Thanks to an ongoing legal case, he's now on edge. Back in 2018, Texas sued the federal government in an attempt to end DACA, claiming the program is unlawful and costs the state money by providing recipients with things like public education and driver's licenses. Last year, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that while the federal government can protect DACA recipients from deportation, it's illegal to grant those dreamers work permits. Well, now the case is before U.S. District Judge Andrew Hanen, who's tasked with reviewing the Fifth Circuit Court's guidelines. So far, though, no deadline has been set as to when Judge Hanen could offer a final ruling.
We have 89,000 DACA recipients who contribute $6 billion in spending power and pay $1.3 billion in taxes. And most of them would probably have to leave the state if they weren't able to renew their work authorization.
Additionally, it would also create a legal precedent for other states looking to do the same to the more than 500,000 DACA recipients in the U.S.
They weren't thinking of people who've been here a long time, working, paying their taxes, studying, potentially losing their work authorization. And I think that is an opportunity for a conversation with voters and with lawmakers about what to do with us, and we're so important to the economy.
What happens, Juan Carlos, if your work authorization expires?
That is something that keeps me up at night, and knowing that, I could go off to Lubbock, Texas, or to San Antonio, and that there are state troopers who have the power to ask for immigration status and call ICE on you, that terrifies me.
Because no deadline has been set up, people like Juan Carlos fear the ruling could come at any minute and not land in his favor.
Welcome back, everybody. We are just a little more than a week away from the Java House Arlington Grand Prix, so we wanted to find out what it's like to go that fast around a race course.
But no one, not even the drivers, have been able to take those cars out on that track yet, so we settled for the next best thing. We sent our Bo Evans up to Texas Motor Speedway, where he got behind the wheel of a stock car to find out what it's like to go fast.
The engine's loud. Call Group 1. Put them in 10 cars and off you go, 150 miles an hour.
Ever wonder what it's like to be a race car driver?
Now, when you got your hands on that steering wheel and you're buckled in that seat and you're got your foot on the gas pedal, man, it's there's a lot going on there.
I teamed up with David Starr at Team Texas Racing to find out exactly what it takes.
How's it feel so far? You feel safe already?
I feel fast. They show people what it's like to race stock cars on a real racetrack. I strapped in for the ride at TMS. One time I'd like to get into one of these suits for a story like this and keep up racing.
Yeah, I think
myself and others.
We got you tied into a seat, safety first, got a helmet on.
Shake and bake, baby. Shake and bake.
He's made of steel, he's ready.
Now, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually failed my driving test twice.
Let's go have some fun, man. And man, you go out into corner number 1 in the banking, you got to turn down there, you're running 150 miles an hour. The G-forces are amazing. The hardest part about the Texas Motor Speedway is the front straightaway. It's tough. Got 2 dog legs in it. You come off turn 4, you're aiming for the wall. Most normal people don't want to aim for a wall when you're going 150 miles an hour.
I don't even know what my top speed was. Scary. That was terrifying, but fun. That's fast.
140 miles an hour out there. You did awesome. It was great.
That's awesome.
Good job, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, soccer fans, the running clock is on. We are less than 100 days now to FIFA's World Cup. Frisco and Mansfield will be host cities for 2 yet-to-be-named teams. Today, our Bo Evans takes us along for a tour of one of the stadiums and tells us what all of this means for the team and Mansfield.
You are looking at the next great thing to take place here in Mansfield, Texas.
Big things are happening in Mansfield.
We're excited. We're ready to host. We've got over 150 restaurants that's waiting to welcome people into our town. And whichever team comes to Mansfield, we're going to paint the entire town that color.
Mansfield Mayor Michael Evans is talking about which country his city will host this summer. A new stadium, still under construction, will be their home base during the 2026 FIFA World Cup. But will it be ready to host in less than 100 days?
100% ready, yes ma'am. We will be good to go here.
The $88 million stadium is one of 2 selected in North Texas to host teams for the international tournament. The stadium is being built to specific FIFA standards.
The biggest thing is, natural grass field, which is what they always want. The fact that it's got some privacy to it, the fact that it's got 4 locker rooms. It was designed very soccer specific for that.
But the winning pitch is to use the field beyond soccer, after FIFA leaves town.
We're talking about NCAA rugby. We're talking about a concert venue, cricket, lacrosse. We're talking about multiple sports actually taking place in this facility.
In Mansfield, Bo Evans, CBS News, Texas.
Days after the Texas primaries, the Democratic and Republican parties are hoping to make an impact on the November ballot. Now, we still have some races heading to runoffs. That happens in May, but both parties are still going to be working to attract voters. Our media partners at Texas Monthly have taken a closer look at this. Right now, let's go ahead and bring in Ben Rowan, who is joining us for tonight's discussion on the topic. Ben, good to see you. Let's go ahead and start with the Democrats' strategy. Why do you think Democrats are trying to gain more young men voters in the party? And what about women? What are they saying?
After the 2024 election, Democrats looked and saw that they had slipped with many demographic groups. I think it's interesting that of all those groups, the one they've really honed in on is young men, who make up about 5 to 7% of the electorate. I think the reason is because they're a little bit easier, require less cultural literacy, so to speak, to try and approach and win back than other demographic groups that Democrats struggled with, including, for that matter, old men. And middle-aged men. Where women fit in the picture, obviously every Democrat is running a campaign that theoretically is trying to appeal to lots of different groups. I think what you've seen this election cycle is that they've gone on podcasts that might have a male-skewed audience, are releasing videos from their home gyms while doing bicep curls. There's a real effort to try to appeal to men specifically that you aren't seeing for other groups.
Yeah. Well, can you tell us about the political strategy among Republicans? How are they going into all of this?
I think in 2024, Republicans had a pretty clear message, which was anti-incumbency. And I think for many young men who are struggling to make rent, have home ownership rates much less than their parents or their parents' generation, that anti-incumbency message struck a chord. Things are not good for me, and I will vote against who's in power. Now, of course, Republicans are in power. Their message has shifted a little bit. They are attacking wokeism and trying to make the pitch to young men that, certain ways of speech, of monitoring how people speak, that walking on eggshells is not something that they should be doing, and that the Republicans are the party of honesty and anti-woke politics.
Yeah. Well, the race for U.S. Senate, that is one of the bigger races in Texas. So ahead of the runoff between incumbent John Cornyn and Ken Paxton, President Trump said once he announces support for one candidate, he's going to want the other to drop out, probably expect the other to drop out once that announcement is made. Could this help or hurt the Republican strategy, what the president is talking about doing?
It's interesting because last week, President Trump said he had made up his mind, but wasn't going to say who, and did not release an endorsement ahead of the primary. I think most reporting out there is that if he does endorse, it would be John Cornyn. John Cornyn is definitely from an older generation of politicians than Ken Paxton. I think theoretically, Ken Paxton might be able to appeal to younger men better than John Cornyn. I don't see any reason why Ken Paxton would drop out, though. He has his own base. He has his own very, very fervent supporters. And I think he would happily stay in this race even without Trump's endorsement.
Sure. Well, in November, James Tellerico, he will face off with whoever wins the Republican primary for the U.S. Senate race. So if the Democratic Party is trying to reach younger voters, how could Tellerico fit into that entire strategy, you think?
Talarico launched his campaign. Well, actually, a couple months before he launched his campaign, he went on the Joe Rogan podcast. And that's a podcast that a lot of Democrats had shied away from going on in the past, or say they weren't invited to go on. And I think he has made a concerted effort to try and be in spaces, non-traditional media spaces, that young men listen to and exist within. And I think Talarico is definitely popular amongst young folks I spoke to. I think he takes a more oppositional tone when talking about Republican priorities and defending his own. And when I was down in South Texas a couple months ago, that's something that a lot of young men I talked to reference as a real reason why he might be different than other Democrats.
Misery wouldn't find a congregation at a Cedar Hill church, even though their sanctuary was destroyed in the January ice storm. You may remember this significant roof collapse here. This is at Kingdom Culture, Dallas. Well, our Marvin Hurst found out that that's not the only damage the church has had to endure.
The force of a winter storm.
Some of my days involve some peace and then the tension of the frustration of the moment.
Still gives Apostle Sherman Dumas chills.
And I know that if God's called us here, he's going to fulfill everything that he's called for us to do. And so even in a moment that seems, most would call crisis, some would call devastation.
Dumas' wife and 5 kids walked into the sanctuary of Kingdom Culture, Dallas, devastated by ice. A church leader alerted them about the disaster.
It wasn't just, us coming and stepping in and popping up a church. This is people from all over the world, literally, bandied together to help us get the down payment to purchase this property, 4 acres of land, this building, 11,000 square foot building.
What they helped build in 16 months came tumbling down in that special place where people's hands reach up for whatever they need.
They estimate somewhere around 50,000 pounds of ice that set on the roof, and that accumulation of that ice, the roof could not handle that accumulation, and it came down.
The church body, he says, got strong.
So Dr. Jaquette Dumas, that she brings the word this morning.
And as his wife got ready to preach, like on this Sunday, he got more bad news.
And so while the roof is open, we get torrential rains a couple of weeks ago.
The church's hallways flooded, as did the sanctuary. Sandbags are still up to stop the rising water. A demolition crew comes in next week. Until then, more internal flooding.
The faith is I'm believing that God is going to heal me. So I'm sitting in the pain of this situation, but faith says that I'm believing that God's going to bring me out on the other side.
Here's a picture of what Faith for Kingdom Culture Dallas looks like. Renderings for a new church in the same spot where ice tried to put out their fire. In Cedar Hill, Marvin Hurst, CBS News Texas.